Hello everyone, Brad Tennant here with Best Wealth Management. Today we're going to be talking about 3 lessons that we can learn from the COVID-19 crisis. Specifically, 3 financial lessons that we can learn. This was a widespread epidemic that affected people in many different ways, from employment to income to the way that we shop, wearing masks, a whole host of things. If you have kids, homeschooling your kids, all sorts of different things that happened. But today I want to talk about what can we learn from that crisis, or more specifically, what can we learn if another crisis comes our way? And so the first thing that I want to talk about, the first lesson that we can learn from this situation is take control of your own situation. It was sort of a welcomed relief that Congress got together and put together a stimulus package so that people had some money to be able to put groceries on the table, be able to pay their mortgage, car payments, etc. But the one thing that we need to learn here is that while those stimulus checks and those for small business owners, the Paycheck Protection Program, all those stimulus measures are great, but essentially we shouldn't try to become dependent on those. We should take matters into our own hands and make sure that we have resources available to us to protect against something like this happening again. Because the next time something like this happens, there may not be a bailout, there may not be a stimulus. So when things get back to normal and you get back to work and things are back to sort of more of a normal routine, take that opportunity that you have and start to build up resources for yourself so that you can tide yourself over when that time comes. And specifically what I'm talking about is make sure that you build up a savings account or an emergency fund, say 3 to 6 months of expenses, maybe more, depending on the security of your job and your situation. You might need to actually have a little bit more money in your emergency fund. So while the stimulus checks were great and fantastic and certainly served a purpose, make sure that when things return to normal, you're doing your part to take care of yourself should another situation arise, or I should say when, it's not if, but when another situation arises. The second thing that we can learn from this epidemic is that we can reframe our mindset. Instead of looking at the negative, we can recognize the silver linings that might be present. And while it was devastating for many people to lose their jobs and their incomes, there are some silver linings that are often present that can actually help you in the event that you do lose your income or your job. One of the silver linings that we noticed is that mortgage rates came down significantly. And that is something that if it makes sense for you and you're going to be in your house for a little while, then refinancing your mortgage to a lower interest rate could provide some extra cash flow that you need during a difficult time like this. So prior to the coronavirus, the 30-year mortgage rates were around 4%. Then when everything happened, they dropped down to 3 to 3.25% and still sort of hover around that area at the time of this recording. So that's one silver lining that we had. A second one, and maybe even more important, is it really provided an opportunity, a significant opportunity that we haven't seen for quite some time. And that opportunity was people lost money in their investment accounts. And that may not seem like an immediate opportunity, but where that comes into play is if you had an investment portfolio for quite some time that has done very well for you and has tremendous gains in there, but yet you still needed to make changes to that investment portfolio because maybe you were over concentrated in a particular position or a particular investment. You knew you were taking a lot of risk in that area, but you couldn't quite pull the trigger on moving out of that investment because you would have had to pay a tremendous amount of money in taxes. And so what the coronavirus did to the stock market was it it suppressed it significantly, and it declined very rapidly. And when that happened, that created that some people had investment accounts that had gains for years, that then they now saw losses in their portfolio, or perhaps maybe they didn't lose money, but their gains came down significantly. So that presented an ideal opportunity for people to be able to sell out of those investments, and either take the loss that can actually be used to improve your or minimize your taxes long term, or maybe you just didn't have very much gain, or maybe you had a lot of gains, but then your gains came down so far that you now wouldn't pay as much on your gains if you were to sell the investments. And so this was an ideal opportunity for people to reposition their portfolio, sell out of those investments that were heavily concentrated in one company or one area, and actually make a change at that point at very little to possibly no taxation at all. So that was a very tremendous silver lining that was present during the coronavirus epidemic. The third and final lesson that we can learn is really this, and it's not anything new, but it's protect against the unexpected. Nobody really saw this coming. Yeah, I know there's been movies that have been filmed regarding epidemics like this, but nobody really saw this coming. And even if you did know this was a possibility, you wouldn't have been able to know the timing of this event. So you need to be able to protect yourself against the unexpected and really recognize that anything can happen. Let me give you a case in point in how this ties to your finances and your investment account. A lot of people, from what we've seen, have a heavy concentration of their money in the U.S. stock market, and specifically, they have a heavy concentration in the S&P 500, which is the 500 largest companies in the U.S. You're thinking about companies like Facebook and Google and Microsoft and Apple and these big, huge companies like this. And if you're one of those who have had your money in that area, then really since 2009, your investments have been off the charts. Your performance has been off the charts. You're probably looking at 12, 13% per year since that time frame. But I'd like to caution you against that in the framework that this third lesson is that prepare for the unexpected and that anything can happen. If you have an over concentration like that in your investment portfolio, I would highly encourage you to prepare for the unexpected and diversify away from that one area. You still own it, but own other things as well. Don't be so heavily concentrated in one area. We just have to look back to 2000 to 2009, known as the lost decade. And during that period, that 10-year period, the S&P 500 lost about 1% per year. Now, that by any definition would not be a great investment. But the prior 10, but the most recent 10 years, as I mentioned, has done very well for you. But you can't have such a concentration that you can put your investments at risk to where you could experience another situation like the lost decade from 2000 to 2009. You would not be very happy if you were an investor at that period of time in the S&P 500. So be sure to prepare yourself for the unexpected. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you have it spread around in multiple different areas, because you just do not know what will happen. So hopefully you've liked this video, these 3 lessons here. Obviously, there's many more lessons to learn. I actually wrote an article. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, I wrote an article titled 8 Strategies to Implement during the COVID-19 crisis, and go into a little bit more detail about some of the things I mentioned today, as well as some other valuable tips that you can implement to improve your financial life. It's a little bit of a dated article because we're sort of coming out of the COVID-19 crisis, it looks like, at this point. But it can serve to help you to recognize what to do in the event that something else does pop up. So hopefully you've liked today's comments and today's video. If so, please down below give me a thumbs up, like, And also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you'd like to receive further videos. And be sure to click the subscribe bell as well so that you can be notified when future videos do come out. Also, we really love to hear your comments and to be able to interact with you. So if you have questions about anything that was in the video, would love to engage in a conversation regarding that. So that's it for now. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.